The New Orleans Saints had a very fascinating draft. You see their picks right next to me. Only 5 picks, despite the fact that they gave up a future first rounder to get an extra first rounder in this draft class. This is kind of what the Saints do a little bit. Just so you know what you're looking at, the picks there. That's when they were selected is the column on the left, and then the number right next to their name. That is where they ranked on the consensus big board. First, Chris Olave, who they traded up to get, which my gut reaction was I don't know if you have to trade up to get him, right? Because I think he's been mocked sometimes as low as like the Packers getting him with one of their picks. In hindsight, they did have to trade up to get him. They were not getting Chris Olave if they stayed pat with their pick. They were going to have to move up to make a move to get him. And so when you think about it that way, it's like, okay, what's the extra round pick really going to be? Some solid depth potentially, but trading up, you're getting someone who can be a really good receiver for you if you feel that high about Chris Olave. Now, I had a couple guys higher than Olave. I had Jameson Williams higher than Olave. He's the guy I probably would have rather them gone with, just personally. However, they like Olave, and I do think he could fit that scheme well and certainly should help out New Orleans with some of this other stuff. I think that this is, they need someone who can take the top off the defense, someone who can be a deep threat. And I think that Olave next to a Michael Thomas, who I believe Michael Thomas should be good and should play next year. That's kind of a weird situation in its own right. But if Michael Thomas can play, this would fit in very well. And if he can't, well, then you definitely need a receiver. So again, I like Chris Olave and what he'll bring to the Saints. This was a reach for me on my board. It just was. But at the same time, receivers are very difficult to evaluate. And no one really knows of receivers. It is kind of a guessing game to some degree. You look at the list of when receivers get drafted, it almost always just feels like you just randomly threw them together because it's, in the future. I mean, like go back and look at, I don't know, with the exception of last year where it seemed like the NFL pretty much got that year right. For the most part, go back and look at random year, 5 years ago, and look at when receivers got drafted. There's usually going to be some out of order guys, even more so than other positions. So that's why it's just a weird draft. So listen, if you like Olave, okay, cool. We'll see how it works out. Number 19, Trevor Penny. This is something that has been mocked to them for a little bit. 18 on the consensus board here. I'm a little bit lower on Penning than I think the consensus is. So, Saints fans might not be too thrilled with me. Listen, you're still going to beat my favorite team twice in the regular season. All right. So, don't worry about it too much. But Trevor Penning, listen, I think Trevor Penning will figure it out. I think Trevor Penning will be good. He does feel like a bit of a developmental guy. He basically beat up on bad competition. That's something that really did happen. His pass block win rate was not spectacular in pure pass rushing sets. He needs to work on that. Great at run blocking. That's what he's fantastic at. He moves his guys well. And also, I didn't think he was that great in open space. He missed some tackles in open space. And I've made a whole film study talking about Penning. That being said, I still like Penning. I had him as like a fringe first rounder. He goes here at 19. So I still like him a lot. And quite frankly, I'm actually okay with this pick. In fact, I like this pick. So it's weird because I'm being negative because I'm lower on Penning than 18. But I still do like this pick because he's the next best tackle available. They needed a tackle. And if they didn't draft him, where else were they going to go? So this is one of the issues that can arise with someone like, when you're in a situation like the Saints were, where they basically, needed two things and we're going to have to do whatever they could to get those two things. Sometimes you have to spend a little bit extra draft capital than you would like to get those two things. But at the end of the day, what did we say about this Saints draft? If they can end up with a good receiver and a good tackle, it's a good draft. And they did that. So, with that logic, I have no real issue with it. And this is kind of what New Orleans has done, right? They go up to get guys if they like them, and they're not worried about, giving up some extra draft capital to do so. So that's more about the Olave thing than the Penning thing. So I get the logic behind it. Again, every team can't be a winner in the draft, right? Some teams have to win, some teams have to lose. That's how it works. There's only, there's expected value with these picks. But I think they got pretty close to the expected value and fit needs. So that's where things are, I'm not crushing them necessarily. Alante Taylor at 49 is a unique one. So it's a reach on the big board, right? Where he was on the consensus big board is double where he got drafted. But hey, he's a fast corner for one. So you're never going to see me complain about drafting a fast corner. That's just not really not really what I do. So that alone is cool. Now, what's interesting about him is he's the definition of a 1-year wonder. He was really not great at all in 2019 and 2020, but then had a great 2021 season. So that's the hope, is that he's someone who just he figured it out and now is awesome. And if that's the case, then cool. And again, fast corner here. I think I like this pick. He's not someone that was really on my radar before starting to figure out, for starting to look at this stuff. And so the fact that he was drafted at 49 feels like maybe it was a reach. Maybe you could have gotten him later on. But again, 6 feet tall and can move. That alone is interesting to me, and had a good season last year. Although, again, you could argue, okay, he was a little bit older then. Maybe that's why it worked out. Pro Football Focus has him as a 5th round pick. He goes here mid-second. But again, if he's a good player, what's it matter what the value was? So while I'm sitting here saying I don't know if they, got the most value with these 3 picks, if these 3 guys all work out, this is a great draft. But they have to work out. That's the thing, is if you miss one of these guys, then it's not a great draft. So that's basically what the Saints are doing, is they're putting all their eggs in 3 baskets. And I guess if one doesn't work out, it could still be like a solid draft. But if 2 don't work out, then it's a horrible draft. But I guess you could say that about any team with their top 3 picks. If 2 don't work out, it's a bad draft. So, maybe that's fine then. Finally, with their 2 later picks, this is the 5th and 6th rounder at 161 and 194. DeMarco Jackson. By the way, I thought about okay, did they really just draft 2 guys named Jackson solely to spite me? I think that's really what they did, is they just wanted to spite me and say, let's mess with that Jackson Kruger sports guy since he's a Buccaneers fan. Let's draft 2 players named Jackson. That would be funny. I don't think that's actually what happened, but that was just something that made me laugh. So yeah. But at 161, DeMarco Jackson, who seems like he could be a solid linebacker. Again, anytime a linebacker goes, at this spot, part of me wonders, are you a special teams guy? Because that tends to be how it works. I don't think they're just drafting him to be a special teams guy. One thing that I found interesting is a lot of, they talked about how one of his positives was he can be a good quarterback spy. Don't know if that matters that much in this division. Obviously, you don't need a spy for Brady. And then for, these 2 rookie quarterbacks coming in, maybe that'll help with them, perhaps. But at least with their, the team that we expect to be the most competitive, the Buccaneers and the Saints, those are the top 2 that have been a top 2 for the past couple of years. Don't know if that'll help them that much. But again, maybe he just is, for all we know, he's just a special teams guy, and that's that. So it'll be interesting to see. Jordan Jackson, interesting guy as well, where seems like he can play defensive tackle or edge. He's 290, so kind of in that, light defensive tackle or big edge rusher guy, kind of a tweener. We'll see how he can work out. But, he had production, and he's someone who is, could at least be maybe potentially a decent pass rusher here for the Saints. He was projected to be the 358th guy on the big board, but again, the consensus big board, not always perfectly in line with the NFL big board, which is why you see that stuff. And again, if you're reaching at 194, are you really reaching? Because what else is there? So as a whole, interesting draft from the Saints. Saints are always an interesting drafting team. I don't think I loved it. I liked, because again, you got to factor in, they had a lot of draft capital. So they had multiple first round picks. So they should be getting good players. I don't know if they got the best that they could have gotten with that draft capital, but that's also just kind of an evaluation thing. I wasn't as high on Chris Olave as I was on some other guys. If they got Jameson Williams, I think I like this draft a lot more. But if Chris Olave is what the Saints believe he can be, well, then it becomes a great draft. And I think he'll be good. I don't hate him. I just think that there's other guys that were better, but I've been wrong before. So we'll see if I'm wrong this time as well, because it's interesting. And the Saints, I'll certainly say this, I don't think the Saints are going away. A lot of people are saying, Saints are going to be screwed. Saints are going to be good. I think the Saints are going to be I think the Saints have potential to be a playoff team. They have a lot of good players on their team, and they filled up a couple of key needs here. So because of that, I think people are sleeping on New Orleans. And let's be honest, they tend to draft tackles well too. So Penny will probably work out. And he's in a great situation where he, can what I should have said earlier, because I know people have probably already written angry comments. He has some technique issues, but the Saints should be able to coach up and, get that out of his game. So I think he's going to a great situation. And he's just a little bit more of a developmental guy. That's all I'm saying. Pump the brakes a little bit, but he's still good. So yeah, that's what I think of the Saints draft. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the New Orleans draft? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.